Call the meeting to order up December 9th, 2025. We'll have the territorial acknowledgement by student trustee Bronwyn.
We acknowledge that the land on which we gather, our school and district buildings are situated is the traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin people. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people on the land on which we gather here today.
Thank you. And invocation by student trustee Sydney.
May we who are assembled here have a true understanding of the duties placed in our hands. We seek to have the wisdom to honor our obligations to the Renfrew County District School Board students, families, staff, and communities. As trustees and administrators, we will work together to lead, guide, and support the vision to inspire, empower, and achieve.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the attendance. Chair Boland here, Vice Chair Clark present, Trustee Humphreys,
Present.
Trustee Doherty,
Present.
Trustee Gannett, present, Trustee Kaiser sends regrets, Trustee Primo sends regrets, Trustee Rajamani sends regrets, Student Trustee Doherty, and Student Trustee Dick. Dr. Heaney.
Here.
Superintendent Burns. Superintendent Poirier. Here, I see her.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's on our way in.
Yeah. Superintendent Smith. She's here.
Yeah, she's coming. We have trustee Primo who just joined.
Hi, Jody.
Hi.
Superintendent Cromwell. Present. And Superintendent Nickel. Thanks. So because of two absences, the following is a recommendation that the Renfrew County District School Board approve the absences of Trustee David Kaiser and Trustee Karthi Rajamani with regret from today's regular board meeting. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Thanks, Roger. And Ken, all in favor? And that's fast. You had the agenda in front of you. I need a mover and a seconder for the agenda as stated. Thanks, Ken. Mike, for second. Thanks. All in favor? That's passed. Any declarations of conflict of interest with today's agenda? None. Move on. Last is the official business stuff before we get to the interesting stuff. Yeah. So I need everybody had the ability to have a look at the minutes. So I just need a seconder, a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Thanks, Susan. Can't all in favor? All right, that's done. So I'll hand it over to Carrie for the presentation today, the school holiday musical performance from Rockwood Public School.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure to welcome Rockwood here to give us a nice presentation for everyone, and welcome families, and thanks for coming in and sharing with us. So that's great.
I just want to thank the teacher, Cara Beadle, and Deb Taylor, the principal. They sang very well. It was very entertaining, especially the hot chocolate. I never heard the hot chocolate.
It's great.
And then also where they were talking about Newfoundland and Labrador, right? So I go, and they were doing like starts to butter us up or something. All right, on to staff reports. First on the agenda is the early reading update, and Carrie.
It's gonna be tough to follow.
You gotta sing the presentation.
It's gonna say can't do that. So I want to welcome Sarah McPhee, our principal at K-12. She's going to walk us through kind of our status of early reading, but I'll give us a little background, just where our background knowledge. So just a reminder that policy program memorandum 168 came out in July 2023, was developed in response to the Right to Read report, sets clear provincial expectations to strengthen early literacy. It mandates early reading screeners for all students from year 2 kindergarten to grade 2 to identify learners at risk and provide timely and targeted support. Renfrew County uses the ministry approved Acadience, which is the K-6 screener, to meet these requirements. Essential component of the PPM 168 is that schools must dedicate protected time for explicit systematic reading instruction for grades 1 to 3. This protected time is essential in ensuring consistent, high-quality early literacy instruction and represents a continuous focus for improvement across the district. Memorandum also reinforces equity by emphasizing culturally responsive, evidence-based practices in the use of screening data to guide differentiated interventions. And Sarah will walk us through where we're at and the work of her team and how we're doing in the system.
Thanks, Carrie. It's been a busy year since last I was here talking about our meeting. We're in our second year of the PPM implementation, as Carrie had said. And I'm just going to go right into the current status. You all have all the minute details in your report, but I'll just highlight a few points as we move through. New this year, we just distributed some pacing guides to our K-2 staff. So they would be able to kind of gauge their instruction for the students throughout the school year and to make sure that they were getting the essential pieces that they needed to get taught to their students between kindergarten to grade 2. For screening in particular, we trained all of our new staff that had not been previously trained. So in the screening, we updated our currently trained staff to administer digitally through something called ALO, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. We needed the support, and we did get the support from Inspired Learning. So along with the lists, through the month of October, screened to over 1,700 students, and actually released teachers to do that screening this time. So the teachers did the screening on the students with release from our central team. And then when we were looking, we had our data. So by the end of October, we had our data. We also released or got the support from our Inspired Learning coaches to allow our teachers to dig into the data a little bit. And this was important so that they could actually filter out, look at their students, where they were at, and be able to create some groups for small groups in their classroom. The list, so our literacy intervention specialist teachers, we have 3 of them. They led these meetings to talk about instructional responses, student trajectories, and monitoring student progress after this first screener. In addition, we updated resources in the curriculum resource hub, and these are tailored to specific skills in the screener. And in addition, we met with approximately half of the ECEs, so the other half of the kinder educator team, and also allowed them to have access to their data to do the to dig into their data and see their class lists and be able to manipulate it so that they can look at next steps for their groups. A little bit about the digital screener that we tried this year. So we moved from paper and pencil administration of the screener to a digital platform. This has been really wonderful, and it saved a lot of time. It streamlined the cognitive load for those that are doing the screening to avoid, you don't have to have a timer separate from a booklet from this. So it's been really nice to have it all in one package. And the data is instantly in the platform. So you can see instantly how many screeners were done on each day, and the data is instantly there. No need for spreadsheets anymore, which is wonderful. We also have the capabilities with this platform to monitor student progress in between screenings. So little snapshots of how students are progressing, and that's all in the digital platform as well. Secondly, we also purchased licenses for a digital tool for grade 1 and 2 students, and it's called Amira. And this digital tool is new, and we're piloting it. And it's a responsive tool that it actually listens to the child read. And when it hears an error in something, it'll provide a little tutor, a little minute or two of tutoring session. And it does things like model the shape of the vowel, or it'll ask them to try a different strategy. So it's a really neat tool that we're trying out. We're still working out all the implementation things with it, but we're optimistic about the impact that'll have on our grade 1 and 2 students. Students are monitored with benchmarks, and there's lots of data to dig into with that Amira tool. The goals for that tool are just to enable more targeted instruction and responsive, like just-in-time tutoring for the broad range of reading abilities that we have in each class. And students can also use Amira at home. This inspired learning coaches really help the implementation of this digital tool, while the lists were doing other things directly related to screening in that K-2 and the K-2 group. So we're going to move into the data section. So under the current data, you'll see the little snapshot of the percentage of the total cohort, the percentage that met or exceeded the grade benchmarks for year 2 kindergarten. So 72%, grade 1, 39, and grade 2, 42. But the table at the bottom does reference last fall's data compared to this fall's data. So we're seeing 4% improvement in scores in SK and grade 2, and an 8% in grade 1. And this bump in grade 1, we believe, is due to some targeted focus on kindergarten, in particular SK, throughout last year. Training all of our kinder teachers and our ECEs in the screener and the measures and the early reading skills that are required. And providing them with the pacing guide for that universal instruction. And just confirming that all kinder students receive instruction on the letters and sounds throughout the year. And this early kind of focus on K does show that the data, it makes a big difference when we focus on the younger students with the smaller gaps. In terms of resources that we purchase, we're purchasing and we'll be distributing in the new year some letter magnetic sets so that students can manipulate the letters and sounds as they're going through their lessons, and purchase decodable texts so that every K-2 classroom should have a good chunk of decodable text to use as part of their instruction. Next step. So we have trained some grade 3 to 6 teachers in doing this reading screening in their classrooms, and they're really eager to do so. So we have purchased some digital licenses for those teachers to screen their students in their class. We are also supporting grade 1 and 2 teachers with another PD session to dig into that Amira data tool and look at the capabilities of it and how to integrate it into your class literacy block, and to revisit tier 1 instruction, fidelity and progress monitoring. And our inspired learning coaches are undergoing training to be Acadience screening mentors, which means they can then deliver the PD that's needed as staff changes throughout the school year. So we're trying to be more self-sufficient and being able to manage things within the groups that we have wonderful access to. Am I missing anything?
No, it's good.
Okay. I think that's it.
Any questions?
Oh, maybe I do. I told Leo before I didn't have any questions, but I perhaps came up with a couple. It looks like it's making some good progress, right? One of the questions or the wonderings that I had was around the your percentages of increases, et cetera. Like, is that kind of the expected improvements, or is there a benchmark of improvements, or is there anything like is this really good improvement? Like,
Good question.
I just wonder.
I don't have access to provincial data.
Okay.
I don't think anybody does right yet.
Interesting.
I think if we looked at our kinder SK data over time, we saw like about a 3% increase in the beginning of the year over time. So 4 is definitely an increase from 3.
Yeah.
But it is a good question, and I am waiting for more.
Need more data perhaps to give us that information. No, that's fair. It's certainly nice to see it progressing and lots of great work going on. So thank you for that. That's it.
You good? Any other questions? I was writing down stuff as you're going through. So one was for Amira, can they access that at home? And as soon as I finished writing it down, it said, and they can access it at home. So okay, didn't take that off. So are there other programs that they can access that at home? And then the other thing is, like, are you able to keep track of it so that, like, if student A is doing a lot of work at home and student B isn't, that student A, you would assume, would do much better than overall in the class reading.
That's a good question. I have to learn a little bit more about Amir in terms of the time that it's accessed. I know with Lexia, so that's the other digital tool that we used more broadly last year. However, it is a US based. So we're asked to choose Canada, so we're choosing Canadian product. Lexia you can, but I'm just figuring out whether Amira has that capability, but I also think it would be interested to track those student progress for those that are getting the extra support at home, for sure.
And then also, just encouraging them, right, to say, hey, I saw you, you did this last night, thanks. Great incentives that you can give the students. So, yeah, that's good. Any questions? All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Jody.
Jody has a question.
Go ahead, Jody.
Hi, thank you. I did have a question, and I believe that at the Parent Involvement Committee in November, they were looking at what I believe were the spring screening measures, and the percentage, and correct me if I'm wrong if I've got this wrong, but the SK measures were 28%. Grade 1 was 24 and grade 2 was 26. Is there, I tried to find the rest of the graph back in our website, and I wasn't able to find it, but I do recall the spring measurements being significantly lower than the fall measurements. Do I have that right?
In SK, Jody?
SK was 28, grade 1 was 24, and grade 2 was 26.
That must be.
Yeah, I
Go
can
ahead.
respond. So at our November Parent Involvement Committee, Superintendent Nickel presented the Student Achievement Plan. And in that document, and we're always sort of 1 year behind with our data in the SAP. And so I believe we were looking at the public version of the Student Achievement Plan. I'm just looking, yeah, I see it right here. So it says percentage of students at the end of year 2 of kindergarten. So it's their end. Yeah, so it's the end of kindergarten, like SK, end of grade 1, end of grade 2. And this would have been our 23-24 student achievement plan. And that is the data. And so what we are seeing, one of the trends that we are seeing is that we are seeing a drop, like from our fall collection window to our spring. There's a trend or a pattern where there are fewer students meeting the benchmark in the spring compared to where they are in the fall, which we've got to figure out, like we're putting different measures into place to try to mitigate that. But that is accurate, that those numbers are lower come spring, and that's been a pattern, and I'm sure it's not only our board either.
Yeah, just to qualify, so the benchmark assessment gets more
Yes.
difficult as the year progresses. So, when we start the year, we noticed from last year to this year coming in, and probably because of our JKs, we're now at a starting point that's higher. Now we're trying to keep that drop off. That doesn't, because it does. Now we're asking for more skills, and that's where Acadians Online really helps us to kind of progress monitor to say we're trying not to get it to drop off, because the goalpost is moving all the way along. So it gets harder based on the skills that they need to acquire by the end of the year. So it's not the same benchmark that happens again. It should be the next pathway that they got. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's a more challenging assessment in the spring.
That's good to know. I would assume it would have been the same.
Right. No, that's because it's matching their progression as readers, right? It's getting harder the more you go along. The assessment does this, the benchmark assessment does the same thing. So, yeah.
So if I can ask then, and I don't know if this last year, the 2024 spring, because I think Director Niemi, you said that was the 2023 spring maybe? Or was that 2025 spring? Were those similar numbers?
Yeah, they were similar but improved. So this data that we're looking at in the student achievement plan is from the spring of 2024. So our spring of 2025 data improved, and I would actually say one of them improved by quite a bit. Yeah, like we had a significant bump in one of the grades. Our data this past spring was quite a bit better. Still room for improvement, and we've put some additional strategies into place this year compared to last year, like the online tool to help with the monitoring in between the assessments. So the data was better in spring of 2025, and we could bring that data.
Yes, I think if I might be allowed to just follow up on that question, I think it would be important if there were somewhat similar numbers to see why, in the fall they're at 74%, and then by the spring, if the test reflects what they should have learned over the year, if they're going from 74 to 28, I think that's a number that a lot of parents would be concerned about, and I think we'd be concerned about as well. So perhaps when we're looking at the spring numbers, it would be helpful to have the fall numbers to see who's dropped off and what skills are being missed or aren't being accepted by the students, so we know what that drop is.
So to clarify, we don't have any cohort that has dropped from in the 70s down to the 20s, but what we will do is in April, because Superintendent Cronwald and Principal McPhee are going to bring back another report in the spring after the spring collection window. So what we'll do is we'll actually show the data in a couple ways. One way that we can show it is actually one row for a cohort, like, the first time, like their SK journey, their grade 1 journey, their grade 2 journey, so you can see their progress as a cohort. And then we can also share data in this way as well, comparing, a grade across multiple years so that we can see that we're seeing improvements in that way. But we can also show cohort data. Yeah. So we can do that in April.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Any other questions? Thanks, Sarah and Gary.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Next up on our agenda is RCDSB Adult and Continuing Education 2024-25 update. Scott's leaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Under pressure.
Doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I guess he's going to get pissed at.
Yeah, he is.
Let's see.
Thank you, Seth.
I'd like to welcome Mr. Rakowski, Principal of Student Success and Innovation and Adult Continuing Education. And Chris also mentioned that she would sing the hot chocolate song.
Yeah.
That was no.
Scott will dance, right?
Oh, no, that, of course, yeah, that's in the agenda. So the purpose today is to provide an update on the 24-25 school year for adult and continuing education. And just to highlight a few things in the background, our first statement, obviously, as you know, it's to support adult learners. And as just to remind again, that it's also to support the secondary students. So as you may recall, it's a purposeful decision for us to make sure that we're supporting our secondary students and secondary schools when needed. And so you'll see when Krista goes through the current status for last school year as well, in terms of the finances, that we're purposely doing that so that secondary students that are already registered within our schools still also have access to some of the programming as well there. In the second paragraph for the background too, we mentioned the KPMG audit, and you may recall from 22-23 school year and further back, and again, you'll see it in our reports as well, that there was some fiscal challenges in terms of expenses and revenue. And certainly updates prior to this have been not only in terms of updating a school year, but also updating in terms of our progress through the recommendations from that. And then lastly, too, just in terms of two different school registrations, the RAL, the Renfrew Alternative Learning, and the Renfrew County Adult School Register, both of those, you'll see again in the report as well that the RAL, the Alternative Learning, is one that we're no longer using. It's still an option, but it's one for the most part that does not serve us, nor does it serve the students as well.
Sure. Okay. So on to current status. So you'll see some information in terms of our financials in adult and continuing education and some data for the last three years. Obviously a very significant decrease between 22 and 23 and 23 and 24 in terms of our deficit at the time. So in the 2022-2023 school year, part of that is attributed to the reduction of one less educator. And then in the 24-25 school year, the principalship came to me, so we don't have a principal that is just for adult continuing education anymore. But we did add a re-engagement guidance counselor to support the necessary work in adult and continuing education. So we did lose one position, but we gained another. And you can also see in the table below, has been an increase in enrollment, which is a good sign. And we have denoted it for students that are under age 21 and over age 21 because the funding formula from the ministry is different to generate more funds for students who are less than 21 compared to over 21. And as Scott mentioned too, some of those students that are showing up in there would be high school or secondary students that require some different programming than maybe their school is able to offer. We see students that are on supervised alternative learning accessing courses through adult and continuing education. And we also see students who, for lots of reasons, may have decided to change their pathway, and all of a sudden the course that they need at their school was in first semester, and they've changed their mind, and now they need in second semester. And wait lists in the e-learning consortium, which we're happily involved in, can be quite long. I'm hearing in the hundreds right now for some courses for second semester. So it allows a quicker access to the courses through our adult and continuing education course offerings. So some new actions that we took part in last year was, one of them was Pathways to Success. So it was a partnership event that we held in May at the Legion in Pembroke, where our goal was to bring in community members so that they would become more aware of the services that we provide and vice versa. So it was a good morning we had a panel discussion, and we had time to sit with different community agencies and talk about the services that were offered through adult and continuing education, which included credit bearing as well as ESL. And at the time it was called Literacy Basic Skills. It's now called Get Set as of about 2 weeks ago. So it's a new title for our Literacy Basic Skills. And then in the afternoon, we invited potential learners to come in to visit a booth style event where they met with us from continuing education as well as some of the community partners, which remained in the afternoon. So we had a good turnout, and we certainly had some new registrations and inquiries as a result. And then again, just as I mentioned earlier, we did hire a secondary re-engagement counselor who's Carrie Sweeney. She's a very experienced guidance counselor from Madawaska Valley District School, who supports students in their course selections when they come in and they have an idea of maybe the pathways. She can take a look at their transcripts and then help them choose their courses, as well as she supports a number of PLAR, so prior learning assessments. And if you take a look at the next page, you can see her total. So last year, she did 283 different assessments, which generated 943.5 credits, which also generated $41,035. So, a lot of work being done in that role, and also coming back financially into adult continuing education, and lots of success stories for students who become a lot closer to graduations. That's positive as well. And then, as I mentioned, the adult and continuing education principal role has been integrated to the student success and innovation principals portfolio. So those were some actions that took place last year to help with the financials, as well as to continue to support students both at the secondary and adult level. That's me.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then in terms of next steps, and jump in as well, Chris, but certainly what we anticipate, we recognize that for the 23-24 school year and the 24-25 school year, we recognize that, again, when you look at the charts, that there's a lot of similarities in terms of the data. But as mentioned, in terms of the next step, we've added for this school year 15 additional courses, unique courses for secondary students. So we're anticipating in terms of the data that there will be some changes there, and in particular, the number of secondary students that will have access to it. We also recognize that, again, if there's more secondary students accessing courses, we recognize that in terms of expenditures and revenue, that may change, but it not to the same degree that it was from the 22-23 school year. But again, a deliberate move based on what we're seeing in many cases, as Chris mentioned, in terms of the supervised alternative learning program, just as a mechanism. One of the main reasons why we do it is as a mechanism for supervised alternative learning students. Just that there's definitely a greater need in terms of providing additional pathways or alternative pathways for them. The other thing too, of course, for this school year, we have 2 sites in terms of where adult and continuing education is being offered. So that's something new for this year as well. And we're monitoring that. We're also monitoring, not to go through all of them, but just highlighting for number 6, we're also going to be monitoring as well, just the number of registrations coming through from our 7 secondary sites. You may recall that in previous years, registration only occurred in certain locations, but now obviously our secondary schools are in all of our communities. So having access to the community secondary schools for our different learners to be able to register, we feel that's certainly a need for the community, just for convenience too. And you were going to mention as well, Chris, just about the Get Set,
Right.
which you may recall in earlier programming, it was an LBS programming, but now the ministry has a new direction, and so there's a new program that we're going to be starting for the 26-27 school year.
So we like the name, it's transferring from literacy basic skills to skills, education, and training. So it's a bit more modernized. And so one of the programs that we're looking at as a result of that change is we have a program right now for students with disabilities that runs in our Pembroke and our Pryor site. It runs 2 days a week in each of those 2 sites. So we're looking at changing, and we have communicated to our caregivers, because we know that they're going to need, some notice in terms of getting ready for their for next year. So in alignment, because the new program, the Get Set name, is really aligned with a focus on employment and preparation for employment and potentially into the workforce, as well as community needs that have been expressed. We're starting to we're looking at a program called Path to Work, and what it will be is a specifically designed program, which we're in the works of now, that will foster job readiness and increase the capacity of adults with mild intellectual disabilities to pursue a sustainable employment. So it will be a 1-year program. We haven't decided on a date yet, but early spring we'll be assessing students, because there will be some criteria that students or learners will need to meet to be part of the program. And then from there, we're developing the program and implementing it to start in September. And then when students leave, the hope is that we can match them with, employment services or another agency to potentially seek employment when that's finished. So again, it's fairly new and in the works, but we have laid some of the groundwork with our staff and with our caregivers so that people are aware, and we give people enough time to prepare for next year.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So I did skim through the KPMG program review, which was a very enlightening review, a lot of detail. It did talk about the fiscal responsibilities, but it also brought out a question around the leadership challenges that had happened in the past with regards to the organization of continuing ed. So maybe this is more or less a money question for Superintendent Barnes, but do you think now we have some stability in terms of ensuring that there's continuity and consistency now from the leadership perspective in terms of having the new structure in place for ALDED?
In terms of continuity, in terms of just the staff, is that?
Well, yeah, we're going to keep our principal in that role for a period of time, because there was a significant number of changes previously, right? We had significant turnover, and I'm just wondering in terms of stability and consistency, and whether or not the funding supports that continuation of that consistency.
I agree. I turn a little to Superintendent Barnes, but at the same point, though, I think the turnover before my time, but also I think it's in reference to having a adult and continuing education principal, like that was exclusive just to that program. And now it's embedded within other programs as well. And I think that was part of the fiscal responsibility too. But it does also match in terms of student success, you know, and within that portfolio.
I think if I could just add, Roger, one of the things we did is look to where the expenses were lying. And we had some leased properties. And so we sort of over the last 2 to 3, 4 years, we've brought all of the services in-house. So we've reduced sort of all expenses that we could do. And then what has happened is the staff that the program supports is aligned with the needs of the students. So we're finding a better matching. And so we're in a much better financial position, a very comfortable one. So we've come a long way. Lots of work has been done for sure. And I feel that, you know, where the money is set up to support the needs of the students. So we are in a much better spot.
Just in terms of sustainability of the role, the principal role, Krista's current position is fully funded by the ministry through, I believe it's student success. Well, I think it's student success, but anyhow, it's fully funded. And so that's why we matched up with student success, because there's so much overlap between secondary student success and alternative learning, which is a significant part of adult and continuing education in our CDSB. So we think that position is very sustainable, you know, and the model that we've established, well, from our perspective, Krista could give us a lot of feedback too, but from our perspective, there's just, she works so closely with student success teachers, guidance counselors, co-op teachers, you know, the secondary admin, and, you know, the adult and continuing education program is an extension of student success. It's an option. It provides pathways. So we see that position as being very viable moving forward. Now, in terms of the person, that's the ball's in her court with that part.
I could wink at you.
It's Mike.
Just a couple of things. I was here back in the day when KPMG did the audit, and it was pretty scary. The trustees sitting around the table looking at if we didn't do anything, what was going to happen. And much has been done. Kudos to you and your team and everybody else that's been involved. I was at the Pathways to Success Day for a while. Great atmosphere, relaxed, you know, all encompassing. They even had things that's food treats, whatever, just people from the community. It was a really good day. I like the way it dovetails into Sal for our kids. I really do think there was a missing niche there, and it's very cost effective. So that being said, we're moving in the right direction, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Leo. Just a couple of things, a couple of questions, but I just have to agree that it's really nice that we are doing more support. I think for the SAL students, that was one of the challenges, even just from communication, I think from secondary schools to continuing education. So it's nice that that's been resolved and really looked after. You talked about the 15 unique courses for secondary students. How are we doing those? Like, are those in-person ones, or are they virtual? Are they like?
They're an e-learning.
E-learning. Okay.
And so in the past, Dave Miller, who's a teacher at Mackenzie Community School, he had a continuous intake, which means that students can enter at various times,
Sure.
which ends up happening. So he was able to deliver a number of courses, but not enough, because we see more students needing. So what we did this year was Brianna Belmore and Darcy O'Brien are two of the teachers through continuing education. And they have opened up each semester, they have a section, so about 30 to 32 spots each. And Brianna's teaching more of the math and science courses that Dave wasn't able to teach at Mackenzie due to qualifications. And then Darcy is teaching more Englishes and humanities courses, again, that Dave wasn't teaching. So unique being that we didn't offer these courses before, and students that need those courses are now able to get them through adult and continue, and not just supervised alternative learning students, it's other students in the board as well.
Oh, that's great. And if I could, just one other quick question. Around the Get Set, it sounds like, I think you mentioned it's a brand new term as about 2 weeks ago. Is there anything else different with it, or do we know quite yet?
That will be disclosed.
Okay.
What we heard was the new name, new branding, anywhere where we had anything on a website needed to be changed right away, and we did, and then more information was to come. All we know is it's more focused on like employability skills and training for that.
Sounds like a good move, actually. So that will be interesting to watch. So thank you. It's great.
Thanks. Most of my questions have been answered, but one, are we still having like in-person classes or is it all like online?
It's all through e-learning. However, students can come in to our sites and receive support from the teacher, and or the teacher could travel to a site if the student isn't able to get, for instance, to Petawawa, where Brianna Belmore teaches out of and Darcy teaches out of Renfrew. So they wouldn't come every day, sit at a desk, be taught like your traditional way. It's through e-learning with support from the teacher.
Very good. Okay, no other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Krista?
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, we don't have to sing it. Nice.
Next on the list is the consultation regarding grade 7 and 8 at Whitney Public School. Jenny?
They want to sit beside me this time.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, so we want to provide a little update to you in regards to enrollment at Whitney Public School and our plans for a consultation that will occur hopefully in January with the families of that school. This is here in case we need them. So just in terms of background, I know the report was there for you, but we did provide a summary of enrollment history at Whitney Public School. And you can see that if we look back from 22-23, we had 45 students, and then moving forward to 24-25 school year, the school had a total enrollment of 35. You will notice also that there are two columns attached there, one for original classroom teacher allocation and then classroom teacher allocation following top up. So that just means that at the time of staffing, that was the number of teachers that were allocated to that school. And then we were, for those 3 years, and considering trying not to have too many students together in combined grades, being able to do what we could to be able to mitigate that. And we're in the position when the decision was made to top those classroom teachers up so that we would have 3 classroom teachers to manage the JK to grade 8 enrollment at Whitney. Looking towards the last year when we were looking at the enrollment for this school year and the projections that we were looking at, the school was looking at a total enrollment of 34 students with only 6 students in the grade 7 and 8 class that would be there for this school year. And we had reallocated 2 classroom teachers at that time. We did include some long-term enrollment projections as well for you. We did, and you can pull back and look at the report if you like, but the numbers are staying fairly consistent. There is 1 year that it looks like it's going to peak up to 39, but then it is going back down to 34 students in 2033. So when we were looking at that projection for this upcoming school year, and knowing that that was going to mean that those students in JK to grade 8 were going to be organized into 2 classrooms. So we would have been looking at a JK to grade 2 and a grade 3 to grade 8, just based on how the numbers were falling. And that led us to investigate the option of having those students move earlier to Madawaska District School for their grade 7 and 8 year. So we made that decision to consider that move. We, just trying to reduce the disparity in ages in the combined classes, thinking about access to program, and we know that they do a masterful job when they have multi-grades in one classroom, but it is a difficult job. And so being able to best meet the needs of the range of learners in all grades. We also considered the fact that we already had transportation that was running from that community to Madawaska School for the secondary program. And that Madawaska Valley District School did have space that would be able to support those students. So it was a fairly quick turnaround in our thinking when the thinking came that perhaps we should consider offering for those students to go to grade 7 and 8 for their for their intermediate years, really just wanting to expand their options, expand the number of peers, also that they had the ability to be able to collaborate, enhance their overall learning experience. So what we did, I actually called all of the families, had really great conversations and explained what we were thinking and got their feedback. And in the end, 5 out of the 6 students did choose to move to Madawaska School. There was one student that took a different move altogether at that time. So 5 out of the 6 kids did move. And along with that, there were a couple of families where they had siblings and there were particular situations where they were actually already on a cross-boundary transfer to Whitney, decided to have their whole family return to Madawaska Valley. So when you look at the overall enrollment that they have this year, you'll notice it's lower than would have been expected with just the 6 kids going. But that's part of the reason why, because some families moved altogether. So right now then, we currently have at Whitney Public School, we have 22 students and they are organized into 2 classes. I was there last week. It's quite a lovely experience and, you know, great learning happening in the classrooms. So we have a JK to grade 2 class and a grade 3 to 6 class. And our thinking at this time is that we're planning to move forward with a consultation for the Whitney families in the month of January. So we've set a date for that to go out and have some conversations with them to see if the families are interested in having us make this a more permanent move for the intermediate students. So rather than looking at it a year by year, is it something that makes sense for us just to make the decision that Whitney Public School would be a JK to grade 6 school, and then for grade 7 and 8 students would move to Madawaska Valley. I will say that right now, there's currently there's 1 student in grade 4, 1 student in grade 5, and 1 student in grade 6. That's the current situation at Whitney. So very small numbers. And my sense from families is that they may have interest in this, but we really want to hear what they think. We want to be able to have conversations and see if they think this is the best thing for their kids. So our plan is to go there for that consultation and then also have a Google form if anyone doesn't want to come, but wants to be able to contribute their thinking. And then we'll gather that feedback and consider our next steps.
There you go. Any questions or any? No, just Rick's.
I'll go with one. Just, this might be for possibly Superintendent Barnes, but with 22 students moving forward, I'm just wondering, like, all these practical, although I don't like budget, I'm always budget conscious. So I know there's probably small school grants that are very healthy to keep that school going. But the 22 students in the school, strictly from a financial point of view, I mean, how do we fare out dollars wise running that small school with 22 kids moving forward?
Both school sites, Madawaska Valley and Whitney, are supported schools, so that's the name of the funding. And what the funding looks at is the minimal staffing required to run schools with small numbers of students. And so we do receive top up for both of those schools to ensure that the minimal staffing is there. So and with the moratorium on school closures, we really have no choice. And so it becomes really a question about how are we serving those students best, right? And so sometimes there may be a financial impact, but it's really looking at what those students need to succeed.
Okay, thanks. I just wonder moving forward long-term, like it's great for what Jenny's saying, Superintendent Smith, what she's saying and what they're doing. I agree with all that. I'm just looking at the numbers.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just a comment, Superintendent Smith, really want to thank you for taking initiative to reach out to every parent and have personal conversation. I think that really says a lot about our board, that we're willing to listen to parents, engage in them, problem solve, and credit you for taking on the initiative and doing that on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Yeah. And at least, have that conversation, right? Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
We'll be able to bring you a little update after.
Yeah.
All right, the last report is the 2026-30 strategic plan.
Thank you. I'll share first and then perhaps Chair Boland and Trustee Humphries can jump in because they were key members of the trustee strategic plan this year. And so we have brought you multiple reports about the development of the strategic plan, and previous reports had all the details about the process that we have followed. At the November board meeting, we brought you the draft of the plan with its design showing. Sought feedback, and then we gave feedback to the graphic designer, and then he has made the changes that we've requested along the way. And this is the most current version of the strategic plan that we're putting forward today, hopefully to be approved by you today. And then the plan is that we're not going to put out any communication in the month of December about it, just because our schools are very, very busy right now with a focus on the holiday season. And we think that the best timing, and we talked about this as a strategic plan committee as well, the timing would be best in the new year to go out with a communication to all of our staff and families and community partners about the new strategic plan. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Trustee Humphries, who is the chair of the committee, and Chair Boland, who's on the committee, and you're welcome to make additional comments or make a motion.
That would be good too. I think it looks amazing. There's been a lot of thought and a lot of time and a lot of consideration of input from so many people, but I think it's come up with a really nice plan for the next 4 years. And I love all the pictures in it. I think it's put together so nicely, and I look forward to seeing that one pager. I think that we hope to make into a bit of a poster that we can put in every school. And I really have to commend Kristen and everybody who was involved in all of those consultations. It was pretty amazing. The reach out was phenomenal, and I think it really helped to remind the community that we're here and that we are listening and that we really want to be part of their world as well. So I love it. I don't know, Leo, do you want to add any comments?
I double of it. Also, just a shout out to Jen Williams, right? That also was instrumental in helping us with this. And this is just the beginnings of the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. So it looks awesome, but now it'll be up to then the senior staff, admin staff, then to come up with a plan in each of those categories, and then communicate that with us, and then with the general public and the schools. So yeah, I think it's awesome. Any questions or on it?
I'd be happy to make a motion that the board accept the strategic plan for 2026 to 2030.
All right, so that's the motion, seconder. Thanks, Mike. All in favor? That's passed. Oh. To everybody that had a little bit of hand in it, I'm not gonna give you a hand.
So nice.
Yeah. Thank you. Next is into committees. SEAC, Mike?
Yes, thank you, Chair Boland. Just a few things. We mentioned at our last SEAC meeting that both myself and Susan Humphries would be continuing in that committee. They looked at us, smiled, but they didn't give us a rounding applause. But I think they gave us their endorsement, so we appreciate that. Just another thing, I won't talk really about it, but just mention, and that is there's a project search you'll be hearing something about. I did speak just briefly. I mentioned it to Superintendent Smith, and they'll be having a discussion or an overview on that. Other than that, there was no recommendations. I just moved that the board adopt this report.
So Mike has moved the adoption, and you a seconder for that. Charger, all in favor? Next is Sal and Kim.
The SAL committee met on December 2nd and 4 SALs were completed. And there was no recommendations. So I move that the board receive this report.
Thanks, David, seconder. Thanks, Susan.
To remind you.
Go over that side. All in favor? And that's fast. The next item would be OPSPA. So we have Roger, Susan.
Yeah, I'll start off and Susan will fill in all the gaps that I leave behind.
If you'll leave any, it'll be great.
And we are looking for some direction from the board this evening with regards to a proposed governance model that is coming forward through OBSPA. A brief chronology just to help you along this process, just to show you that there has been a lot of thought and discussion thus far. Back in spring 2025, as you know, 3 boards were placed under provincial supervision. And one of the first courses of action that the supervisors implemented was a cut in funding to OBSPA. So as a cost saving measures and as a result of 25% of our total funding. And that isn't just for this year, it's also for next year. The best thinking out there is that the boards that are in supervision are looking at least minimum of 2 years of supervision. And as you know, since this time, we've also had another board, North, that's also come under supervision. So on September 26th, the board of directors meeting, the concept of reducing the size of OBSPA's board of directors was proposed as a cost-saving measures for the organization of our association. There was a need for a refreshed governance model that was leaner and more aligned with our financial and organizational realities. On November 1st, at our Eastern regional meeting, the chair, as you know, of that meeting is Susan Humphreys. She led a very vibrant discussion, cheerful in some respects because we had representatives, trustees from boards that were in supervision, and they elected to come up on their own because they were not funded by that for that purpose. But a new governance model was proposed, or at least the concept of a new model was proposed, with the goal of reducing the size of our board of directors, and of course, reducing the cost of the organization. This discussion was carried through all of the regional meetings throughout our association. And on November 23rd, at the OBSPA Board of Directors meeting, a refreshed model was proposed and discussed, and it was also amended. And that is what we are about to present to you at this time. I believe Shelley was able to send you the structure. It's Appendix B, which was in a fairly lengthy document that the OBSPA group sent out. And I'm just going to go over it very, high level, and perhaps I'll let Susan add any comments as well at the end, and then perhaps we'll take some questions if people are agreeable to that. So the biggest difference, as you can see from the chart, is reducing the size of the board of directors. So we're looking at previously 52, 53 board of directors, and now going down to 17, 18. The notes over the side there, what I'd like to draw your attention to is one of the biggest amendment that was made was ensuring that each regional board was able to have 2 voting members on that on the new refreshed model. So that would be the current regional chair, but also the vice chairs. So that was the biggest change. There was a proposal for fewer numbers than that, but we felt that in 17, 18 really kind of met the needs of the organization. Enrollment director, previously there were 2 enrollment directors, and you can appreciate we have, I guess, Toronto District representing more than 50% of the student population. So they were granted previously another seat at the table, so to speak, and that has now been scaled back to 1. The term of office, because this new model is going to be leaner and more representative, we felt that the term of office needed to go from 1 year to 2 years. The regional structure has changed slightly. We used to have 5 regions, and there was kind of a north sub-region east and a north sub-region west. And now we've just determined that it's going to be northeast and northwest. That's 6 regions in total. The executive council previously had 12 to 13 members. Those positions have been eliminated. We feel that the now smaller board of directors at 17, 18 will be able to carry on the work that the previous executive council conducted. And then the regional council leadership, you can see previously was the chair, vice chair, and then elected representatives on the core issue groups, whereas now we're looking at regional leadership team model provides an opportunity for the chair, elected chair, to work with the vice chair and representatives on core issues, work groups to establish cohesive connection between all levels of OPSPA's governance structure. So again, that regional conversation, which we hold at regular meetings, will be the place where a lot of that good discussion and business is carried forward. And we're hoping that model will be one that will entice trustees of Eastern Region in particular to spend more time coming together and meeting and having some vibrant conversations. So it's gonna take a little bit of work, a lot of guidance, but we're confident that the new model will still provide great representation for trustees across the province. So and the core group, core issue work groups will maintain their identity. So the policy development work group and the education program work group will also be in place, as will the Black Caucus group will also be there, and the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit group will also have their own structures being maintained. So there's a lot of continuity, but the biggest issue I would say is the fact that we've really scaled down the size of the organization, trying to make it leaner and make it more representative. In addition to that, there's been other changes to help with the fiscal realities. I know that the executive have taken there's been some staff cuts, I think three positions, full-time positions, moving meetings as much as we can to online and reducing the costs of the upcoming PES conference. We're trying to engage other stakeholders to be part of that so they can help take away some of the additional costs associated with a big event like that. And so we're continuing, Ops is continuing looking at ways that we can perhaps squeeze the dollar and make our money go as well as we can. So I'm just going to turn over to Susan in case there's a few things that I might have missed and any additions that you'd like to make, Susan.
That was a great overview, Roger. Just a couple of things maybe I will emphasize. The discussion around two representatives from each region was quite a conversation, and it was an amendment made. And I think that those of us in the region felt it was really important to a couple of reasons. One is because the OPSPA is under the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, you are not allowed an alternate at your board meeting. And we felt if we didn't have 2 people at the board meeting, if you only had 1 person there and they couldn't go for some reason, then you had no representation from that region. So we felt that having the 2 was very important, that we would have that. And also with the 2 per region, we just felt it was the parity was there, like we've got an equal representation now from all 6 regions. And then I think thirdly, it really emphasized to me that a lot of that really important discussion and work now will be done more at the regional level. We don't exactly know what that's going to look like yet, but we're going to be working hard at making sure that we do engage trustees at the regional level, even more so than we have previously, and also recognize that would now be the way of any changes, or, I mean, there could be motions made with recommendations to the board of directors. So I think there's lots of opportunity now, I think, with really increasing that regional role. So I think I've been looking forward to that. And maybe the only other thing I would add is we do have a meeting on December the 18th, which you probably were going to talk about anyway, Roger, but I will mention that at that point, the board of directors members, Roger is our voting delegate, but all the board of director members will be voting on December the 18th as to this change. As it stands right now, Roger did a great job of kind of covering what the changes are, but recognize there could be other amendments that might come forward as well on the 18th. So it could be a very interesting, could be a very long meeting, or it could be a very short meeting. We're not sure. But I think the majority of things, I think majority of board of director members feel this is the best way to go for OPSPA in order to continue to be a vibrant organization. So I'll turn it back to you, Roger.
Great, Susan. So, Mr. Chair, that really summarizes our presentation in terms of what we hope to share with the trustees this evening, and we would entertain some questions, but ultimately what we're looking for is a recommendation from the Renfrew County District School Board as to how he would like us to vote with regards to this these proposed changes.
That's good. Any questions for Susan and Roger?
Just briefly, I'm just glad that OPSPA, which I have a lot of respect for, just took the initiative in the reality of the financial situation we're under, not to wait, to pivot very quickly and do what they needed to do, however unpleasant it was. That being said, I like what I've heard here tonight. Thanks.
You too, Kim, you like what you hear?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to keep going and keep the organization strong enough for advocacy and stuff that they'll have to do soon. So and continue doing, I guess. They've been doing it, but
So what I hear is, so there's a recommendation, just with a little addition. So that the Renfrew County District School Board provide direction to RCSB's OPSPA voting delegates regarding the proposed changes to OPSPA's governance structure, that they will vote in support of the proposed changes brought forward today. Sound good?
Yep.
All right, we'll second that.
Yeah, second. Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor? All right, so that's passed. Thank you. Thank you. Anything we have is just other business, we need to go into close for that. Welcome back, everybody. I require a mover and a seconder to join the meeting, so we can go have some food.
Sounds good.
Susan, thanks. Okay, all in favor? And we're adjourned.
Good job.
Everybody enjoy your holidays.